March of the Living is an international program that brings Jewish teenagers from all over the world to commemorate Yom HaShoah in Poland and to observe Yom HaZikaron and Yom Ha'atzmaut in Israel. March of the Living began in 1988. Australia first joined the program in 2001, and today this program has been widely recognised as one of the most significant milestones for Jewish youth in our community. This year marked the 60th anniversary of the end of World War II and the liberation of the concentration camps. 118 Australian students from Sydney, Melbourne and Perth, together with over 30 volunteer adult staff, including Holocaust survivors, Jewish studies educators, youth movement madrichim, doctors and psychologists, embarked on this program. This is a record of our journey.
I want to set a tone for the educational sessions, both this one and the ones that you'll be having in your hometowns, is that what you put into the program is what you get out. The better prepared you are, the more you have read, the more meaningful the experience will be. We're off to Poland. Each of you have your thoughts, your images. We come with our own baggage, we come with our own agenda, and we come with our own assumptions of what Poland is like and what we are looking for in Poland.
Why not? I don't know. Saying something that no Jew should be on the earth at all. What would you say back to them? What inspirational or what something would you say back?
How long is this reason behind it?
They might not want to have you ask them about their grandparents because their grandparents could have survived the Holocaust or didn't.
Figure it out for themselves as you go out and make their own assumptions and opinions about it.
The speed with which the Germans occupied Poland was crucial in terms of the Jewish fate. Discrimination, ghettoization, deportation, and annihilation. And if you think of it in terms of...
Now, in many ways, the environment you're going to move into, aspects of it are quite harsh. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. Because what it does is when you guys go through adversity, adversity starts to invite you to put your roots down deep into your resources.
So you're going to go to this place and you're going to perform a miracle without realizing it. Because there is no strong Jewish community that resembles what it was in the past. And therefore, symbolically, when you come back to Poland, you take on the robes of those who died.
Away from reality, and I was beginning to feel I couldn't be myself. Feel like a fly caught in honey, knowing you soon somebody see me, knowing I'm probably going to die. Oh, here we go again, and I'm so scared.
You, along with 18,000 citizens of the world, of all ages, religions and nationalities, will benefit from an incomparable and highly memorable experience. We have been planning this program for many years, since we first embarked on this ambitious plan to make 2005 our largest ever event.
From my nightmares and my dreams, I was beginning to feel I couldn't be myself. She was a little girl. She knew all about my world. She was the matron of my dreams.
And they will be handing out coloured ribbons to their group. The mother then will hand out coloured ribbons. They need to be attached to your luggage.
Oh my god, look, there's not even a leader. Are you filming me? I do. Just so proud of
G'day. You want to come and join our...
I don't know how to lock my own bag. I can't lock my bag.
You locked your own bag?
I don't know how.
Watch this one.
The best way here.
Okay, so where
From Krakow.
Yes, so Tarnów we're going first, we're touring Tarnów,
Tarnów.
and then we're driving straight. So where is this town?
Rzeszów. And from Rzeszów, the first is
Ja nie wiem. Okay. Okay, tutaj to jest. We've landed in Krakow, which used to be the capital of Poland. It's in the south of the country. Welcome to Poland.
אני הולך לבכות לך, תהיה חזק למעלה.
The only remaining Jews actually were sent in 1939. We're talking about 25,000 Jews living in Tarnów, and we're talking about 20,000.
לנצח אחי, אזכור אותך תמיד, וניפגש בסוף, אתה יודע. ויש לי חברים, אבל גם הם קווים, אל מול אורך המשגע. כשעצובים הולכים לים, לכן הים מלוח, וזה עצוב שלהחזיר ציוד אפשר, לא געגוע. לנצח אחי, אזכור אותך תמיד, וניפגש בסוף, אתה יודע. ויש לי חברים, אבל גם הם קווים, אל מול אורך המשגע.
driving through Galicia, which was the heartland of Polish Jewry. We passed through towns and synagogues. We spent a bit of time in Taranov. We went this morning to Zamość and countless other towns we passed through. And the very, very sad thing is that the synagogue that we were in this morning and the towns that used to be full of Jews, towns that had 20% to 80% Jewish communities, most of the people were brought here. And this is Belzec. And here, 600,000 Jews lost their lives. Belzec was one of the 6 major death camps here in Poland. Chełmno was first and Belzec was second. And I want you to understand something. In March of 1942, 75 to 80% of victims of the Holocaust were still alive. Less than a year later, those figures are reversed. 75 to 80% have been killed. The idea of the gas chamber was perfected here. See, when I come to these places, I'm confronted with the same question. How do you convey mass murder? How do you convey the death of 6 million? In the Holocaust archives, there's a letter written by Deborah Katz. Deborah was 9 years old when she was sent with her family far from home on a train destined for Belzec. Her parents managed to pry open a window from the train and she was able to escape, and they threw her onto the train tracks. A Polish nun passed by. She saw the injured girl. She took her with her to a convent. So they looked after her and they hid her and nursed her back to health. And there was a very good chance that Deborah would have survived. But one morning the nuns woke up and found a letter on Deborah's bed. And this is what Deborah wrote. It's bright daylight here, but there is darkness around me. The sun is shining, but there's no warmth coming from it. I miss my mummy and my little brother Moses, who always played with me. I can't stand being without them any longer. I want to go where they are. The following morning, Deborah was put by the Gestapo on the next train to here, the gas chambers in Belzec. Today I want to say to Deborah, you didn't die in vain. You have touched the hearts of many people far, far away from the place that you lived and died. You're not forgotten, Deborah, and you will serve as an inspiration to the Australian March of the Living students to make sure in years to come, no child of any people in any country should ever have to go through the agony and the pain that you have suffered.
From Pieszczyn, Slovakia. She was 30 years old. In Belzec, her husband was murdered, and her 2-year-old son was shot in her arms. Ilonka was selected to survive by the SS because of her trade as a dressmaker and a fashion designer. Today, as I stand here, I want to pay tribute to Ilonka Newman so that her life and memory was not in vain.
My grandfather's brother-in-law, my great-uncle, Paul Rees. The next morning, they were taken out to the town square again and said, we need 200 names of people to be deported to Belzec. He unequivocally refused, saying that that's not his decision to say who will survive and who will not. And a bullet was put through his head, killing him there in the town of Taranov, where we were just walking yesterday.
It's something that our generation has to carry with us and to come to.
The difference, each person is one person. You know, when we say 6 million, we have to remember that it was not 6 million, it was 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. And that's what we're doing here. It's not 18,000 come to remember, it's 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Coming back to remember the 1 plus 1 plus 1 that was murdered during
אל מול אורך המשגע וכמו הגלים אנחנו מתנפצים אל המזח אל החיים וכמו הגלים אנחנו מתנפצים אל המזח
אני חווה עם הבל בני. אם תראו את בני הגדול כאין בן אדם, תגידו לו שאני.
אני הולך לבכות לך, תהיה חזק למעלה.
ידידי התורה וגן עדן תהי מנוחת
Well, it seems as though we've got a stuck bus here, and it seems the only logical thing to do is to lower the ground around it, like everywhere, as in about a kilometre radius, to the level of the wheels.
A major problem. Bus nie roboty.
Now, there must be something in the South African and African blood regarding this. We need a bit of a...
Well, that doesn't...
How did you feel about the monument? Did you have any reaction to that monument itself? Did it speak to you? Like, did you look at this huge thing and feel like the gravity of what had happened there? Did that itself have any impact on you?
The thing we really want you to start thinking about is the fact of what you're seeing. The idea of the sclep game, which is
you got to put yourself in their position.
They can look at us, but then when they start staring at us, that just gets them. Like, they don't take their eyes off us. Like, they watch every.
But it's not really.
Today is a day of remembrance. We are going from Auschwitz to Birkenau, 18,000 people from 60 countries, from all over the world, young and adults, Jews and non-Jews alike. We're going to march quietly. We keep the lines, and we start now on the way to Birkenau.
קהל נכבד, היום יום הזיכרון לשואה ולגבורה. Today is Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Day, a day of mourning and memory for a crime so vast that it cannot be comprehended.
Shalom Lachem. With your permission, I will speak in Hebrew. נאספנו כאן היום 20,000 נפש, בני דתות שונות ולאומים שונים, מנהיגים ואזרחים במצעד החיים.
Distinguished guests, Shalom lekulhem. Wspólny Marsz Żywych to pamięć o zagładzie. Grief, sadness and meditation is with us today when we bow our heads over the tragedy of the Shoah. The Holocaust committed by the Nazis turned this country, where most of the European Jews used to live and where their culture used to flourish, into a massive grave.
Today, Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remember Day, we are gathering here with 18,000 people and millions more watching throughout the world.
Today is a day when we must all agree to preserve the memory of those millions who died during the terrible period.
Remembrance is a blend of sensitivity and reason. Victims are honored, and a sense of responsibility is aroused in all generations through significant and unforgettable events. And so it is with this March of the Living, with people who have come from every corner of the earth in testimony to the everlasting presence of an irreparable wrong.
Mama, I miss her more than ever now. My Yiddish mom, I long to kiss her wrinkled brow. I long to hold her hand once more, as in days gone by, and ask her, please forgive me for things I did and made you cry. In Wasser, in Feuer, wird sie gelaufen vor ihr Kind. Nicht halten ihr Teil, das ist gewiss die größte Sinn. Oi, wie glücklich und
as a schöne Matone geschenkt von Gott. Nur a altitschke jüdische
This place is a special place. It is special because people made it special. Especially atrocious, especially inhuman. In this place of misfortune, malediction, and darkness, a few steps from where we stand now, the history of humanity has stumbled into an abyss of unparalleled deceit, cruelty, and calculated savagery. Here in this place, one could have thought that this was the end of Jewish history. For that was the enemy's goal, the enemy's intent, the enemy's plan, the enemy's program, the enemy's determination to bring an end to the history of a people 3,500 years old. Try to close your eyes and try to listen. Somehow the prayers of the old and the laments of the young, as they were walking in their death, to their death. Try to imagine them as they are still hovering in the air, waiting to be received by the celestial tribunal. Can we imagine what went on inside? Surely you have visited the places here that used to be the crematoriums, the gas chambers, inventions of the 20th century. Don't even try. This place, Auschwitz, Birkenau, did not come down ready-made from heaven. It was imagined by man, conceived by man, constructed and ordered by man, who usurped God's name and his function in deciding who shall live and who shall die. And so, to the nations of the world, we address the memory of our pain and we say, it is here that we all have become orphans. It is here that humanity has lost its innocence. It is here that you must come, be it in thought, if you wish to renounce hatred as a religion and violence as a solution. Remember the killers, and your anger will move you to reject fanaticism, racism, and anti-Semitism. They are a disgrace to whatever human nobility is. But remember the victims, and you will open your heart to compassion. Jewish history has not ended here. It was wounded, but it remained alive. That in this place, we have all the reasons in the world to give up on humanity, but we shall not give up on humanity. And surely we have all the reasons in the world to choose anger, and we shall not yield to anger. Hope is what we all need, and hope is what we can give one another.
As a child here in Poland, born here and living in the shadows of the ghetto of Piotrków Trybunalski, labor camp in Częstochowa, and then in the concentration camp of Buchenwald, Weimar, Germany, I remember myself thinking almost all the time about one word. And this word with the question mark, I never found an answer. The question was Dlaczego. Dlaczego, which means why. Why? What did I sin? What was my crime?
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעולמה דברה חירים ועוד מיתות משונות על ידי הנאצים הארורים ועוזריהם יימח שמם.
I've longed to come to Poland for several years now, hoping and waiting for one or both of my two grandparents who survived the Holocaust to accompany me in my travels, as their presence would add so much to my experience.
Your presence here is a symbol of defiance of the Nazi intention of the annihilation of our people. So is the blue star of David here, where I came wearing a yellow star. My attempts at conveying to you my feelings are constrained by words. Today, I cannot, neither would I want to. Hardly anybody, certainly not I, knew about concentration camps, let alone about the existence of Auschwitz. If there was a piece of turnip, watchful eyes made sure nobody took more than one sip at a time. This portion did not satisfy my hunger. And after the soup distribution, the door of the barrack was shut, and this is when I learned Auschwitz was the name of this surreal place. And you will be the bearers of our legacy. It is up to you, young people, to perpetuate the memory of all whose voices were so cruelly silenced.
I stand here personally today to testify lizchor, to remember, commemorate and honour those people, and especially today, the families of my parents, many of whose lives were cut short in their prime.
Born to a poor family in Khmelnyk, Poland. In 1942, at the age of 14, he and his father were separated from their family and transported to a labour camp. Little did he know that upon arrival, he would be taken away, never to see his father or any other member of his family again.
I never met my Zayda, and I was never told much about him either. 6 years before I was born, he passed away without mentioning a word about the Holocaust. It upsets me that somebody so close to me is so far from me, and other than being called my Zayda, I know very little about his identity.
Yard with a watchtower at each corner, surrounded by barbed wire. There were huge storerooms and a block what seemed to be like an office in the corner. But what struck me was a mountain of trunks, cases, rucksacks, kit bags and parcels. Near was another mountain of blankets, 50,000, maybe 100,000 blankets. I was so staggered by these twin peaks of personal possessions, I never thought at that moment where the owners might be. Over to the left, I saw hundreds of
what the Ramah did as the sage of that particular age in this area was to adapt the Shulchan Aruch for Ashkenazi Jewry.
But this is really the last point for the Jews of Krakow was here, and they were pushed and shoved and everything. And he was looking out the curtain windows.
And what it illustrates really is how carefully you have to look at what you see. Because all these photographs were taken by, after this photograph was taken, the stone was taken back to the Jewish cemetery.
Most people who survived the camp here, or who came through Plaszów, had families that were sent to Belzec, where we were the first day we were here. This monument was erected by the communists in 1963, and on the plaque it says that it's a monument to the victims of the genocide from 1943 to 1945, and it makes no mention of the fact that Jews were killed here. Down the hill, we're going to walk very shortly, is a modest monument that was erected by the survivors of Plaszów.
Stand here today and proclaim my grandparents' story. Coming to Poland, I have been able to uncover the history of my family, whose roots have been implanted in Polish soil for many generations prior to World War II. Today I've been asked to share the story of my grandparents, namely my father's parents, who were fortunate enough to be saved by Oskar Schindler. My grandmother, Sida Florence, was born on the 20th of April in 1922. I think it's important that we learn from all these testimonies from our survivors here at home, and we try to take away as much as possible from it. And I hope you benefit from my
I'm getting a lot more out of it than I ever thought I would. I always thought the term like emotionally drained was bullshit, but it's not. It's true. Like As soon as I stepped out of the gas chambers, I just burst into tears. I didn't even know why.
You know how you're saying you were numb and you couldn't, like...
I couldn't...
That's happened to me twice so far.
I couldn't talk. I couldn't look anybody in the eye. I just had to walk by myself.
As I went in, I just completely... Everything just, like, shut down, sort of, and I was like... So I couldn't even... I cry. I couldn't even do anything because I was in such a mode, like... I don't know what it was.
I haven't cried. And I've been overwhelmed a few times. Not to the point where, like, I was just like...
I said, how can you fathom the idea that a group of people can do this to 6 million?
I was in my year. The number was 14,704. What I'm going to tell you today, I want to confirm the words you heard before, to strengthen you, not to weaken you. But the main aim after the initial use of the camp for prisoners of war was for the Nazis to kill the Jews in Poles by shooting in the nearby forests. That was the beginning of the camp. In 1942, they started to use gas chambers and the now famous Cyclone B for mass disposal of prisoners by gassing and cremating. On the 9th or the 10th of May 1943, after almost 3 weeks of suffering in the hideouts and various underground bunkers in the besieged ghetto, surrounded by burning and full of smoke buildings, we were taken out of one of them on Moranovsky Platz number 11. At this stage, my whole family, with the exception of my mother was still intact. We were sure that the capture would mean certain death, but we were walked the Umschlagplatz with the whole group and others collected from other hideouts. After disembarking, we were marched by SS guards and by dogs 2 or 3 kilometers where an enormous camp confronted us. With hundreds of barracks looking from the road, it made an impression of a surreal place. Thousands of people pushing carts, carrying quarry stones backwards and forwards. But the most accurate name is the one used by the Nazis themselves, the Vernichtungslager, extermination camp. According to Polish researchers, the total amount of people killed here is approximately 360,000. From this Jews of Polish and other nationalities, around 200,000. Poles are 120,000, and the rest people of various nationalities, including Russians, Gypsies, and others. On today's visit, we remember all the victims of this horrible place.
כשהלב בוכה, רק אלוהים שומע. הכאב עולה מתוך הנשמה. אדם נופל לפני שהוא שוקע. בתפילה קטנה חותכת הדממה. שמע ישראל אלוהי, אתה כל יכול. נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל. בעיניי דמעה, הלב בוכה בשקט. וכשהלב שותק, הנשמה זועקת. שמע ישראל אלוהי, עכשיו אני לבד. חזק אותי אלוהי, עושה שלא אבחר. הכאב גדול ואין לאן לברוח. עושה שיגמר, כי לא נותר בי כוח. כשהלב בוכה, הזמן עומד מלכת. שמע ישראל אלוהי, אתה כל יכול. נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל. בעיניי דמעה, הלב בוכה בשקט, וכשהלב שותק, הנשמה זועקת. שמע ישראל אלוהי, עכשיו אני לבד. חזק אותי אלוהי, עשה שלא אבחר. הכאב גדול ואין לאן לברוח. עשה שיגמר, כי לא נותר בי כוח.
Won the Academy Award in 1999, and I am the lady inside in the film that swallowed her mother's diamonds because it carried her love through the whole time I was incarcerated, and I have them today, not with me, because I would never bring my mother's strength and love back to this hell that I took them out of. I just want to thank you for being here and choosing to serve as the witness to the witness. And I hope that whatever you learn, the Holocaust, my story, other survivors' story, that you will pass it on to your children, grandchildren, neighbors, friends, whoever, so those flames of hell become a light of hope. So I want to thank you for that.
As we walked through the entrance gates, we had to remember the lives of the lost. My grandmother walked through for very different reasons. The rumours she'd heard about the crematorium, the gas chambers, the death pits all became a reality. How could she ever imagine what was to come in the 6 weeks that she was at this horrific place?
My father was born in Bialystok during the war. When he was less than a year old, he was transported to Siberia in Russia with his mother, where he lived for the duration of the war.
Trapped inside a world where freedom is a dream. Feels like reality is twirled. Every day I hear the screams of the innocent people, just like me, whose only crime is to be born into a society where racism is all that you can see. I cannot stop my eternal feelings of anxiety.
Imagine going back to Majdanek to see what you can find. All there is ash and smoke, the inhumane doings of mankind. So here at this site of pure evil lies my maternal grandfather's family. His mother, Yentl Kretschmann Igla, aged 29. His younger brother, Yossel, aged 10. His youngest brother, Tsurik, aged 7. And his baby sister, Masha, aged 4. Along with his immediate family, my Zayda lost his grandparents, aunties, uncles, and cousins. He never said goodbye. He will not be forgotten.
Synagogue right now, built a little bit over 100 years ago, survived World War II, being used as a warehouse and a stable by the Nazis. But what I want to talk about is why should there be any Jews left in Poland? After everything that you've seen, and you've been already to Majdanek, you've been to Auschwitz, you've been to Krakow, you've seen things that have happened to the Jewish people that shouldn't happen to your worst enemy. How can there be that there are any Jews left in Poland?
The Jewish community here was very strong. 60%, 60-70% of the citizens of Oshkosh before the Second World War were Jewish. We had 5 synagogues and 1 Catholic church in Oshkosh before 1939.
Traditions say Sangria and
Alright, it's a kangaroo.
On behalf of all of us here from March Living Australia, I'd like to thank you for having us here and also thank you for your efforts in building bridges between Poles and Jews and repairing the relationships. Thank you.
So, did you enjoy that ceremony before?
Yeah, it was nice. It was quite nice. Not very boring.
Oh, that's good, that's good.
Do you listen to music?
Yes.
What type?
Hip hop.
Hip hop? What's your favorite? Did you guys know the Imagine song? You know the song we all sang? Did you know it?
I know.
From the Beatles?
From the Beatles, yeah.
Beatles.
Be able to wipe away.
Goldstein.
Well, at least you're getting the job done, I guess.
Here lies this righteous person. All her life she was another Rabbanit. We found that the Rabbanit, the wives of the rabbis, Rabbanit, her name is Zipporah Leah, the daughter of so-and-so.
We found a grave here of a man named Avram Richter, which is my surname. Not 100% sure if it's a relative, but I know I did have family around this area and stuff. And he was 21 when he died, and it's a 400-year-old grave, so it's a good feeling just to uncover something. Even if it's not a relative, it's just it makes it a lot more personal with the grave and with everything that we're doing here to find something with your surname on it.
By giving them dignity and by fixing this place, by helping to put this place a little bit in order, by mixing, by bringing peace and the kind of feeling that is being engendered here right now. And that's called chesed shel emet. True chesed, true kindness. There's no one to say thank you. There's no one to appreciate it. It's a good deed that is done because it is a good deed for no ulterior motive, at all.
In 1939, 400,000 Jews living in Warsaw. The decree was to get more Jews into the Warsaw ghetto. You're talking about 70,000 to 100,000 more Jews crammed into the ghetto.
Over the wall, through holes and past the guard, through the wires, ruins and fences. Plucky, hungry and determined.
At noon, at night, at dawn, in snowstorm, cold or heat, 100 times I've risked my life and put my head on the line. For 7 weeks I've lived in here, penned up inside this ghetto. But I have found what I love here. The dandelions sing to me, and the white chestnut branches in the court. Only, I never saw another butterfly. That butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live in here, in the ghetto.
משהו ממני, משהו ממני ימות בך, ימות בך, כשתמות משהו ממך בי, משהו ממך בי ימות איתך.
And above all, let it be an act of remembrance. For this is what the victims wanted, to be remembered, at least to be remembered.
Studied the pathways of the Bible and the roadway of the Talmud.
When I was 13, I studied the canals of Warsaw and the sewers of the ghetto.
At my bar mitzvah, I lifted my voice and sang.
To be the chosen people, chosen for what I asked, to be murdered, laughed at, scorned, to be misunderstood, to be objects of jealousy.
My grandfather was born in Praga, Warsaw. He lived with his mother, father, and younger brother. Their house was in one of the many predominantly Jewish areas in the city. The Friedman roots seep deep into Warsaw and Poland.
They were a very respectable Jewish family and were very religious. Her father was a very affluent businessman. In her words, he was a self-made man. He started out hawking cigarettes on the streets and rose up the ranks to become a wholesale distributor of the highest quality brands of cigarettes throughout Lithuania and other small countries.
Ich stehe da heint in Genscher Beis Eulam, in a land wo unsere Overs haben geleben und seinen umgekommen. Of the third generation of Holocaust survivors, speaking in a language that was buried with the dead fills me with a sense of obligation and pride.
What does my grandfather's silence, his inability to share his experiences, mean to me? One might assume that silence leaves a void, an emptiness, a vacuum. But for me, this emptiness is full.
On the contrary, because of the graves that are not here, the absent give evidence to the crime committed. I am aware of the homelessness and desertion of those resting here, of their acute loneliness.
Right, the Umschlagplatz literally was the transshipment square and was the former railway siding by Zika Street. This is where the Nazis loaded deportees onto the cattle trucks to be, quote-unquote, resettled in the east. What it meant in practice was being sent to an extermination camp in Treblinka, roughly 40 miles or 60 kilometers away, northeast of Warsaw.
Leaving Warsaw, our infernal ride to the death camp had started.
By his parents.
Unto every person there is a name.
If there is a school to study the human spirit, then it should be a major subject.
The dream of my life has risen to become fact. Self-defense in the ghetto will have been a reality.
My father was not in Warsaw. He was in Białystok. He was in Białystok because he was thinking of the future. He wanted to establish a business in handbag making. And that's where he was amongst his close friends and also some of our family that used to live in Białystok.
I think after yesterday in particular, I feel like I'll never cry ever again. It's put a lot of things in perspective, like, I don't know, just the importance of what we're doing, like being Jewish just seems to mean a lot more now that I know so much more about the history and our strength as a people.
It's a very emotional week for all of us, I think, and very moving week with everyone, a lot of the survivors' testimonies and everyone's thoughts and feelings that they've shared with us. And I think it's been a very moving week and it's brought us all closer together. Everyone's become a close, tight group and it's been a good experience.
משהו מת בנו ומשהו אסקימו לימון, הנה אני בא, תנו בפעמון, השטיח האדום, יש איתה מפתח של העיר, הצל והאור, בוא תשימו את הידיים באוויר, מחזיק במון מתל אביב ועד קהיר, אני מזהיר רוב העיר, אני לא משאיר, לא מיד ודע, אבל אני זה משפיץ, כל חריץ נפיץ, אני מפציץ, בוא תציץ, אני בא עם מאיר אור, עם מוזיל שחור, לא תמיד קרים השלחה מהרחוב, טוב, עייפות, ושומעים בכל חוק, ההצלחה הזאת פשוט, אי אפשר לעצור, בחיי, אין צנע בלעדיי, מנג'ר דואה, ממסף עיניי, עד מתי? אין סוף לגידוליי, לפניי, אל תגידו
שמוע ג'קי דיאלון ואז נכנסתי לתמונה דופקים מנות בבית מלון מביא אותם אל השכונה מכניס את החבר'ה לתמונה נותנים להם על השטיחים לא ללכלך את המידה קליפורניה הכל התחיל מהשירים ישבתי וכתבתי נפתחו לי הכלבים בחרתי את המלך קונה בתים נוטט כמו כוכבים מפוצץ יהלומים תבין יש לי דברים שבן אדם ממוצע חולם עליהם כוסיות
This morning, we arrived here in our homeland, Israel, where we will spend the next week exploring and celebrating the prosperity of Jewish life in Israel today. We are honored to have been invited to share in the commemoration of those who fell in defense of the Jewish state. May their memories be blessed.
אנחנו מרגישים מאוד גאים להיות פה איתכם בערב יום הזיכרון לחיילי צה"ל. אנו תלמידי כיתה י"א מאוסטרליה מערים שונות, סידני, מלבורן ופרת.
בחלום צמרת עץ פורח והשקט חזר רואים לפי החיוך שערה הייתה
Our goal and dream is to continue building an independent and democratic Jewish state, the state of Israel.
Here we stand at Latrun, one of the crossroads in Israel's struggle for independence. Though Latrun was not liberated until 19 years after the establishment of the State of Israel,
של גיבורי החופש והניצחון, הנאמנים והאמיצים, חתום לעד בלב ישראל.
עינייך לפעמים קולוגות, עוד שדות פורחים יש לפנינו, עוד הרים גבוהים וצונני פסגות.
So come,
one, between two rows of angels, who feed them candy and place flowers around their neck.
All alike continue to die or suffer grievous injury in horrific terrorist attacks.
When he is torn from me to war, and homeward he will come no more. I light this second torch to express our sense of solidarity as Jewish youth with our Israeli brothers and sisters. As members of the Jewish people, we share a covenant of faith. Our visit to Israel is a proud and active expression of our feelings of unity and peoplehood. Am Yisrael Chai.
שימי ראש על כתפי, תני לי ידך בידי, עוד מעט איתם הנר לקבוע, עוד מעט יהיו
the streets of Jerusalem, proudly bearing with us the flag of the David, the flag of our people, in the land of our own. To those who have for centuries attempted to destroy that, let us today declare that they have failed, who have returned in pride and declare, Am Israel Chai.
every and each one of you that walked there in Auschwitz with the survivors, you are the bridge for the future generation. When they want to deny the Holocaust, you will say, I was there, and I will teach the other people. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to hear you. Here from Jerusalem, the capital of the Jewish nation, loudly and clearly, Am Yisrael Chai! Am Yisrael Chai! Am Yisrael Chai!
You're here at Chazon Yeshaya, and Chazon Yeshaya is a major humanitarian organization serving the poor and needy in Israel. Chazon Yeshaya serves 200,000 meals every month. 200,000 hot, nutritious meals around Israel in 38 distribution points. 80% of the meals are going to children. The other main focus, and something that you guys will be helping us out with today, is Holocaust survivors. We firmly believe that those who went through the Shoah should not, under any circumstances, be living out their final years in a state of need. And unfortunately, despite that, there are many who don't know, who have food insecurity. Sorry? Sorry, how many want?
Put the peeled stuff in there. Yeah, and what do we peel to? My mum knows I'm a good peeler.
Girls? Back to work, back to work.
How long does Marsh be going for? 18 years? No, we're all kind of about how everyone was
What if you're a steroid?
going? Where did you come from? I came from the wrong direction.
Okay, so what's one thing that's been described to me? It's like, it kind of looks like a school photo.
Oh,
School photo in different ways. But notice also how every single pillar, some are taller, some are shorter, but the reality is they're all broken. So just like we saw at the Genscher Cemetery, that like the sign for a children's grave was a tree broken. So too, all those pillars aren't broken. You know, whether they're older children or younger children, they won't be able to have their next year's school photo.
And what are those steel things?
After being there, you know, I realised after coming to Yad Vashem today and learning so much more after we'd just been in Poland is that it doesn't stop there, you know, there is so much more to learn. We went to Poland and, you know, you're not safe at that, you know, you can't just say, oh, well, I've been to Poland, that's it, you know, that's my Holocaust studies, you know, there is so much more to learn, and that was definitely something that today made me realise.
Like going to the museum today, it was really good in sort of bringing back the last week and reminding us of what happened.
because you'd been to Poland? Do you think it would be as powerful for someone who hadn't been to Poland?
There's so much information there, and it's so specific, and you can see, learn about everything. I think it would be just as powerful.
I just laid it out for people step by step, so it was a lot easier to
I found
every other museum we go to, it's just everywhere, and it's just not organised. But this was completely, you could see from the beginning to the end what was going on.
When we were in Birkenau, there was so much more to just that picture. We took a step back, and I loved it was the first museum that I just took my time and I just looked at all the information and took it in. It was amazing.
I didn't feel like we were in Poland last week. It felt like I was there a year ago or something, it was ages ago. And also it was really interesting that it reinforced how we were learning about the Holocaust, because being in Israel, it didn't really seem like we've forgotten a bit that we were just in Poland. So it was really good, I thought.
You can look at the photos and you say, I was there, and even though it was only a week ago, whatever, you think you kind of forget about things, and then seeing the photos remind you, and then you start to feel the same feelings that you were feeling when you were standing in Majdanek, or when you were standing in Auschwitz, or when you were on the march. And that was the thing that I found the most powerful, not actually looking at the photos, but having the memories, and the reaction to the photos.
I'd been to Yad Vashem before, and when I went, I could actually see, and even in pictures, you can actually imagine what the camp would look like. You can say, oh, so I knew roughly it could look about this, and then you can see a face like that. But then when I went to Poland, I could see it myself, and I could say, oh my God, exactly, it looks so much bigger now that does in pictures, and there's so much more to it. So I think in that way, for me, it was really important to have been to Yad Vashem before I went to Poland as well, and then go again once I'd been back, and then I could say that I was there as well.
My personal journey with the kids is an emotional roller coaster. They have changed the way I think, especially about Israel, and also having them with me in Auschwitz and Birkenau and the places of mass murder of our people. It was very comforting.
Full speed ahead.
our trip, unfortunately, but it was great.
G'day.
It's the only place on planet Earth where a Jew can walk in the street and shout, "I am a Jew."
Yes, yeah, we're moving on, looking for direction. We've covered much ground. Thinking back to innocence, I can no longer connect. I don't have a heart left to throw around. Oh, and time moves on like a train that disappears into the night sky. Yeah, I still get a sad feeling inside to see the red tail lights wave goodbye. But we'll grow old together. We'll grow old together. And this love will never, this old love will never die. Money slips into your hands and then slips out like it was sand. And there's shoes that you can never seem to fill. I've chased so much and lost my way. Maybe a face for every day that so casually slipped me by. Oh, and time moves on like a train that disappears into the night sky. Yeah, I still get a sad feeling inside to see the red tail lights wave goodbye. But we'll grow old together. We'll grow old together. And this love will never, this old love will never die. Morning comes, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with a frown. So I never want to worry if you're gonna stay around. So let's grow old together. We'll grow old together. And this love will never, this old love will never die. Yes, yeah, we're moving on, moving right